Welcome to GovCast, connecting with federal IT decision makers. I'm your host, Kate Macri. Joining me today is Special Operations Command CIO Peter Tragakis, who recently spoke at the Special Operations Forces Industry Conference, or SOFIC, in Tampa, Florida. I followed up with Tragakis to hear about his experience at SOFIC and get some more details on cloud modernization efforts at SOCOM. Mobile on-demand network access is one of his major priorities. Keep listening to hear why Tragakis believes IT systems and networks are SOCOM's most important weapon systems, and how SOCOM is using creative solutions and problem-solving skills to bring SOCOM IT into the future. So to start off the conversation, I would love to get your perspective on how SOFIC 2022 went and maybe some of the big lessons learned you took away from it.
No, I thought SOFIC was exceptional this year. It was great to do it in person, after a 2-year remote attempt. I think Jim Smith, our acquisition executive, phrased it best when he said that although we were telling ourselves it was just as good as the real event, that the virtual events did not stack up. So it was great to meet so many former acquaintances that, quite honestly, I hadn't seen in a couple of years, and it was really good to meet some other folks and just to have that live feel to it. The added benefit of this being an international year, the first time we were able to do that for about 4 years was certainly also an added factor.
Definitely. So I know you talked about this a little bit in your keynote speech last week at SOFIC, but can you elaborate a little bit on how SOCOM is pivoting its IT strategy to serve end users all over the globe in a mobile and agile environment?
Sure. At the end of the day, I think supporting users and really providing communications on a global scale has really been one of SOCOM's, in my opinion, core competencies for a long time, really due to the dispersed and often austere environment, many of our missions take place in. Given our focus on security and mobility, we're continuously really refining and rebaselining, many of our mobility efforts. With the expansion of commercial solutions for classified and non-traditional DoD transport options, really our ability to innovate has been significantly enhanced. And at the end of the day, we are always conducting research and investing in diverse and distributed communications platforms to improve our secure messaging, reduce the size of our mobile packages, improve security, and improve secure communications with our coalition partners.
Sure. How did the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent push to remote work impact SOCOM IT? And did this accelerate deployment of the cloud and zero trust efforts at SOCOM?
Yeah, I just want to be clear. So I was not in my current role at the time, but certainly was observing it from commercial industry, and have had the opportunity since getting on board about 4 months ago to get with the team. But I think the support from the J6 community throughout SOCOM, coupled with AT&L's ability to rapidly develop, validate, acquire, and field material solutions, was really critical to the command's ability to remain, operationally focused throughout the pandemic. While we certainly had a lot of experience providing, I'll say niche solutions prior to the pandemic, the collective team, did really an exceptional job, rapidly scaling this by a factor of 10 to 20 to meet the new demand. We also work with some of our vendors to expand a secure cloud-based messaging tool in just a matter of days, and accelerated our Office 365 offering through what they referred to as a Flow 3 initiative. Essentially, Flow 3 provided a mechanism for SOCOM users to access core services, email, Teams, SharePoint, and Office from their personal workstations. these initial enhancements really provided our C4 operations branch the time they required to significantly expand, transport, circuit, VPN gateway capacity, along with the time that our acquisition team needed to procure, remote user devices. And even Zero Trust was accelerated through the expedited deployment of Comply to Connect at the mobile edge.
Given the sensitivity of SOCOM's missions, how does SOCOM measure the efficiency and the security of remote work, especially from an IT infrastructure perspective?
Yeah, first I'd like to just highlight the fact that we implement stringent requirements on all of our CSFC solutions. We meet or exceed all compliance requirements. We undergo regular external reviews and really place an emphasis on continuous monitoring. Our cyber network defense team has visibility on logs and traffic from all of our mobile devices, and all logs are consolidated in our secure information and event manager, really for integrated analysis. We also deploy required DoD cyber tools on our remote systems. These include, endpoint security, assured compliance, and deploy Comply to Connect, as I had previously mentioned. We also require, multi-factor authentication for many of our mobile systems. Utilize, MDMs, along with this is, purebred key management application. Finally, really all remote systems are enabled with data in transit and data at rest.
So in your keynote, you really emphasized the importance of mobile on-demand network access and being able to pivot to address real-time human needs from an IT perspective. Can you talk a little bit about what some of your goals are, your specific goals are in this area over the next year or so?
Well, clearly I'm biased given my role, but I truly believe that some of the most important weapon systems we deploy are the IT systems and networks. When we do field or develop new solutions, our objective going in is to deploy these solutions, from a transport agnostic perspective. To do this, we really rely heavily on our gray network, which is essentially an encrypted tunnel. And while I don't think we'll ever rely, exclusively on any one transport technology, ideally we're developing products that can be connected to 5G, to home internet, to commercial internet, to commercial satellite, military satellite, line of sight systems, and certainly a number of our units are conducting experimentation with some of those devices today.
Yeah, following up on that, do you guys have a plan to move to 5G? Are you already in the process of moving to 5G? What does that look like?
I think 5G for us is just another transport alternative. And so we do leverage 5G to get today. The problem with many of the bases, camps, and stations that we are deployed at, typically you're on the edge of quality cell coverage. And so we're working with a number of vendors to move some of those systems, onto bases so that we can really leverage the 5G network to expedite the secure transfer of maintenance data and logs as really an initial test basis, and then potentially, based on how well that goes, expanding it from there.
Sure. So the director of the Enterprise Cloud Management Agency for the Army recently said he wants the Army and the rest of DoD to move away from government first equipment to improve efficiencies around remote work and also just to serve the warfighter better. Is this a priority for SOCOM or not so much?
I think it's always been a priority for SOCOM, and I think we'll continue to analyze, scrutinize, and experiment with all products, regardless of whether it's a government or commercial solution. And in fact, many of our existing and planned solutions today are commercial that we then modify to meet DoD security requirements. And bottom line, with every solution, we need to evaluate the cost, the benefit, long-term sustainment along with security, and as a something that we are taking a much harder look now as we've come out of COVID is potentially exploring some bring your own approved device solutions, and really just kind of in the initial stages of that, but something that we'll continue to look at going forward.
Yeah, it seems like SOCOM in general, compared to the other military, like compared to the service branches, like Army, Navy, Air Force, seems to be more on the cutting edge of innovation and creative solutions that then end up trickling down to the rest of DoD. Would you say that's an accurate assessment?
I think all the services are doing a phenomenal job. I think we've got the benefit of our organization. I mean, I'm located 100 yards away from SOF AT&L. I meet regularly with PEO C4, PEO SDA, and really all Mr. Smith and the acquisition executive. There's one commander here, providing guidance to the force. With the chief of staff kind of leading those efforts, for synchronization. And so I think that we are in a really unique situation. We've got some really exquisite organizations that are really able to test the bounds of technology. They can try 10 things, 5 work. They get rid of the 5 that aren't working. They adopt the 5 that are working. Not It isn't always the case that all 5 of those are scalable to the enterprise level, but typically there's a handful that we are able to scale. So I think that we're presented a lot of advantages that we're able to leverage through the unique acquisition authorities that the command has.
Sure. Software supply chain vulnerabilities are a pretty hot button issue in federal cybersecurity in general right now. How is SOCOM working to secure software acquisition? And is the IT hardware supply chain more of a priority for you guys? Or is the software piece kind of taking some prevalence at the moment?
I'd say clearly, hardware and software risks have exponentially increased, and I can't say that we're placing more emphasis on hardware versus software. It's really all the above. The manufacturing origins of Internet of Things, devices and related components, poses a significant concern, and we've certainly seen some issues in those areas, over the past couple of years. Years ago, the authority to operate and network requirements were, program, afterthoughts. Today, information system security managers and/or officers are embedded with our acquisition team from day one. And while existing tools that our acquisition program managers use to acquire, COTS software or hardware mitigate some of the risk, we truly believe there are really no fail-safe, SCRM tools, that eliminate the risk. We've just seen too many high-profile exploits in recent years to look at this any other way. Now, our acquisition professionals are able to mitigate some of these by procuring hardware or software through approved government IDIQ contracts. We're also building, SCRM compliance into our contracts through related service level agreements, and require, Trade Agreement Act compliant part numbers, if applicable. Despite current efforts in this area, we certainly need to maintain our vigilance and focus on it going forward.
Yeah. So I have one more question for you this morning. What does the future of cloud look like for SOCOM? And how are you balancing the mission set's high security needs with hybrid cloud options and as a service type offerings?
And I touched on this a little last week as well. I certainly see SOCOM remaining a hybrid cloud-based organization. Bottom line, we have a lot of legacy systems that would just be way too costly to refactor to leverage the benefits of cloud, and just quite frankly would be, far too expensive to operate in a commercial cloud environment. Meanwhile, anything we're currently developing, needs to be designed, to operate in, in an on-prem or commercial cloud environment. We're also deployed, a handful of as a service solution as a service solutions exclusively in commercial cloud environments. So I don't see us, going all in one way or the other. We still need to take a hard look at the cloud enablement of some of our tactical equipment. IL6 being limited to CONUS is still a shortfall we need to work our way through as far as pushing those services, into the different theaters. And then another point I touched on last week is, today we're doing everything with coalitions. And so if our, commercial cloud environments are US only, we've got to work to get those so that there's coalition access into those as well.
Sure. And I have one quick follow-up question to that. You mentioned, balancing legacy systems with, newer cloud technologies. DISA's CTO, Steve Wallace, has talked a lot about how DISA is trying to, reconcile legacy IT with new cloud solutions and how to make security solutions work for both of those and, integrate those in a secure manner. What does that look like at SOCOM right now?
I think it's clearly the same for us. And we do, we leverage a lot of lessons learned out of DISA and other organizations, quite frankly, throughout the DoD. I think they're able to leverage some from us. And we're constantly engaged at the technical levels with all those organizations to kind of figure out, best practices going forward.
Great. Well, I think that's all I've got for you this morning, unless you had anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up.
No, I'd just like to thank you for your time again and the opportunity. And I certainly look forward to future engagement. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Tragakis.
Thanks.
Army CIO Dr. Raj Iyer recently announced the Army's very successful Bring Your Own Device pilot will begin onboarding users over the next 2 months. Tragakis said SOCOM is already in the initial stages of their own BYOD pilot, as moving away from government-first equipment has always been a priority for this creative combatant command. To hear more about SOCOM and innovative IT solutions in the world of federal IT, follow and subscribe to GovCast and visit our website at governmentciomedia.com. I'm your host, Kate Macri. Thank you for listening.
GovCast, along with Cybercast and HealthCast, is a production of GovCIO Media and Research. For more podcasts and to check out the other shows, head to govciomedia.com. Watch out for new episodes released every Tuesday and Wednesday across our shows. You can follow all of them in your favorite podcast platform, and if you like what you heard, make sure to let us know by leaving a review. And if you have any topics you think we should look into, contact us at newsletter@gcio.com.